You're about to witness the wild side of nature. Combining some of the best amateur and professional footage from around the world, we reveal incredible animal behavior. Whether it's a tourist with a camcorder, a ranger on a game drive, or just someone in the right place at the right time, the cameras never stop rolling. Each remarkable clip is broken down to reveal the truth behind the footage, as eyewitnesses relive their heart-stopping experiences on camera. And top wildlife experts take us on a journey of explanation and discovery. From rare sightings, incredible kills, hilarious antics, to nail-biting escapes. This is wildlife caught in the act. In the African bush, competition over food is fierce, especially between lion and hyena. Battles between these mortal enemies climax over kills, with the one side often overpowering the other. Co-feeding is rare, making what safari guide Gavin Leitenbach witnessed particularly unusual.
We started off early one morning and we were looking for some lions, and we were out tracking. We had some fresh tracks of a pride in the area. While we were on foot, just a little way from the car, we had a hyena run past us, which we thought was a little bit weird, but ran right past us, didn't even look at us, and then when it happened a second and third and a fourth time, we knew that something was happening. And then we started hearing sounds quite far away, but we knew that we weren't in the right place, we were missing out. So we got in the car and we started following the hyenas as fast as we could. And eventually we found a small puddle, and inside was this beautiful big male lion, and he had a buffalo inside the water with hyenas surrounding him.
The hyenas whoop frantically to call for support. Although they outnumber the male 20 to 1, they haven't got the necessary muscle to oust him. It often takes an entire lion pride to bring down such large prey. This male succeeded despite the fact he has a broken paw.
Slowly, the numbers of hyenas grew, challenging this big male on numerous occasions, and he was very reluctant to leave this buffalo. They managed to get him away from the carcass, and they slowly managed to push this lion out to the side of the water.
Injured and alone, the lion has no option but to surrender.
So before you knew it, the carcass was won by all the hyenas, and 20, 30 hyenas started all feeding at the same time. And it was quite incredible, all the interaction between the different hyenas. Going underwater on top of the carcass. And after, say, about an hour and a half, we eventually decided it was time to go, and we left the male lion with the hyenas still feeding over this well-earned buffalo kill. Just amazing.
Highly adaptable and omnivorous, baboons face less competition over resources.
Baboons eat anything, and they are capable of living in deserts and tropical forests alike. And this is key to their overall adaptability.
Baboons in South Africa's Cape Point Nature Reserve have pushed the adaptation envelope even further. Tourist Nick Chevalier caught their unusual eating habits on camera.
They're incredibly intelligent baboons. I was watching them in the Cape Point area, near where the tourist buses are. They scan the horizon, they've got good eyesight, and they watch. They're constantly changing direction, looking that way, seeing who's moving, what they're doing.
They'll be looking off into the distance, and someone only has to rustle a plastic bag, and they immediately turn around and think food.
They almost seem streetwise. There's a wide variety of human foods that they're quite happy to eat.
Just like humans, they are hardwired to crave that food, so once they're onto it, it's very difficult to ever get them off. When you have a superabundance of high-quality food, what the baboon needs to do in the absence of pockets or handbags is to store it. So what they do is they stuff it in their cheek pouches, and these cheek pouches become really huge, and that's where they'll store the food for subsequent eating.
I'll never forget this one baboon with an ice cream, eating the ice cream, not showing any signs of cold, being quite comfortable eating the ice cream.
When you live in close proximity to humans and you're highly adaptable and omnivorous, then the door is open for accessing our food.
Discarded waste offers another tasty target for these wily baboons.
This one juvenile sliding into the swing bin, going and getting its food.
He's the only one who can get through there because he's small enough.
Just a quick look to see that all was okay, and then go back and get some munchies down in the bin.
Safe inside from the adults, from competition, but slightly concerned because separated from the rest of the group.
But leftovers aren't the only way to get food.
Most people go to Cape Point to see the landmark and to see the place where the two oceans meet. And one of the other reasons, of course, is to see the baboons. What they don't perhaps realize is the potential danger. These animals are very powerful individuals, much more powerful on a weight-to-weight basis than humans are. And you add to that hand power, foot power, 4 hands effectively, and formidable teeth, and a very powerful bite.
With canines longer and sharper than a lion, these baboons respond as they would in the wild.
When two baboons within a troop are competing for a resource, they'll rush at each other and often show their teeth as a threat display, and they're using exactly that same behavior on humans. And of course, as the human steps back, that reinforces to go forward. And so it escalates until the person drops their food item, and that's the scene set for baboons dominating humans and getting their food.
The baboons appear to follow certain key strategies.
Sometimes they're very sly. They'll keep low profile and they'll move from behind. They also do quite a lot of their strikes because people are opening up boots. They're using the vehicles as a vantage point.
Baboons essentially take a car as a mimic for a rock. So what they would be doing is sitting on a rock and surveying their immediate environment for an opportunity and watching other cars, because that's where people are going to be exiting with their bags of food.
They can be very vocal and threatening and show their teeth, and that'll be enough to get somebody dropping food for them. They also have the ability, if that's not working, of actually physically grabbing onto somebody to grab food. The worst incident between a human and a baboon was a lady had her shoes up on top of her car, and the baboon had come onto the roof of the car, and she made an attempt to get her shoe back. It was unusual for somebody to be injured by the baboon. It just shows the unpredictability of animals.
Tourists that ignore requests not to feed the baboons fuel the attacks.
So what would be optimal is to get people eating where baboons can't see them eating. And if you keep that separation, then we'll have less conflict. and then we can have a more harmonious way where people benefit from seeing a wild primate in a wonderful setting.
Struggles over food occur on a daily basis, especially on Africa's vast savannas. Lions are one of terra firma's top hunters. But in the water, it's a completely different story. Able to vault 5 feet to catch prey and exert 6,000 pounds of bite force, double the average trash compactor, crocodiles are apex predators. Hermanus Pelser and his family thought they'd struck it lucky when they came across a dozen crocodiles around a hippo carcass. One in particular tackled the hippo's 2-inch thick hide. Little did they expect additional visitors. Hippo would make a fine meal, but the risk of entering the water is high.
When we stopped, the one lion on the other riverbank decided that he wanted to feed. I immediately grabbed the camera because I knew this was a winner.
Lions are scared of crocodiles generally when they approach the water. That is not their domain.
It was unbelievable that a lion would put his life in danger by going into the water with crocodiles.
Occasionally, crocodiles have been known to take lions when lions are down at the water's edge drinking. But equally, sometimes lions will find a smaller croc on land and they will attack it and kill it.
Because crocodiles are stronger and better off in water, I thought the lions would come off second best.
Suddenly, a second lion enters the water from the opposite bank. His route to the carcass is far more dangerous. He loses his footing and falls directly into the firing line.
Of course, he wants to get out of the water as quickly as possible because he's very vulnerable to crocodile attack.
It was great to see the power a lion has to cross a stream and get onto the rocks.
They might be out of their element, but crocodiles aren't the lion's only concern. Probably from rival prides, these two enemies are a danger to each other. Luckily, this sizable feast is enough to appease all parties.
They're probably just going to tolerate each other's presence at the carcass, and then thereafter they're going to go their separate ways.
To see something like this again, I don't think will happen anytime soon, and if it does, you'd be very lucky.
It's rare for lion to tolerate another predator on a kill. Bigger and stronger, they normally just muscle in to steal it for themselves. The lightweight cheetah is a common victim. Filmmaker John Varty has often seen cheetah lose kills. But on one remarkable occasion, it was brains, not brawn, that challenged the cheetah for her meal.
Female cheetah caught a young gazelle. Now up above Leopard Gorge, there were these two baboons, and they watched the kill.
Down they come onto the plains, eager to optimize on her meal.
The one baboon moved in from the front, inviting the cheetah to chase him.
Baboons rarely eat meat, but given the opportunity, they'll do anything to get it.
Bad mistake. Second baboon in behind, grabs the dead gazelle, and off he goes.
They ensure all attempts to challenge them are hampered.
If you're a single hunter, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to defend that kill.
The baboons, 2/3 the cheetah's weight, had gained a protein-packed lunch.
I would have thought these two guys, so clever, so cooperative, would have shared this kill. No ways. The big male baboon with the kill eats the entire kill.
It seems they didn't work together after all.
Very, very selfish. Does that remind you of another well-known primate?
While cheetahs are Africa's sprinters, wild dogs are her marathon runners. Numbers are the dog's best defense against predators. Hyenas are their biggest enemy, and often tail dogs on a hunt. Given the chance, they'll kill them. John Varty observed just how violent these confrontations can be.
I was at Londolozi Game Reserve. I was following adult wild dogs. Eventually they caught a young impala. Now there's 4 of them. Unlike the cheetah that's a single cheetah, now these dogs can defend. One hyena arrives and thinks he can dominate these 4 wild dogs. So he charges right into the middle of the dogs.
Hyenas and wild dogs, ever since they first came across one another thousands and thousands of years ago, they were never going to be friends. They were never going to be mates. They were never going to get on. And when these species get together, they'll be trying to use every sense at their disposal to intimidate the other group. And this includes lots of weird and wonderful sounds. You can hear that hyena low whooping call and that cackling laugh, the wild dogs making that chirping, barking noise.
The hyena is 3 times heavier and much stronger than the dogs, and packs a powerful punch. Numbers and teamwork give the pack enough muscle to launch a strong defensive. But they must watch out.
This hyena's got incredibly powerful jaws, so there's no ways they're going to head it face on, because they know if that hyena even gives them one little nip, it could potentially crush a bone and they'll never hunt for the rest of their lives.
He started squealing, yowling, eventually he ran off with his tail between his legs. So in that case, the dogs had successfully defended. In the cheetah case, being one single hunter, she was unable to defend.
But some interactions can be far more deadly, as Ranger Giles Kelmanson witnessed.
Well, I was guiding in a private game reserve in the Sabi Sands, and it was on a night drive, and towards the end of the night drive, 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, and I was following some lions, which I had been for the last sort of 40 minutes or so. And they started hunting. We saw eyes up ahead, so we just turned all our engines off and we just let the lions hunt. We heard the lions start running in, and then we heard this huge commotion going on. So we drove up to the scene. It was actually a horrendous sight that we arrived to. This lioness had caught a hyena and was in the process of strangling it and mauling it.
Lions and hyenas are sort of mortal enemies, and it's really because they're so similar in body size, they like eating similar sized prey, and therefore the competition between them is so much more intense.
Hyenas are incredibly powerful animals, and so you have to understand how strong lions are to overpower that creature so easily. Another lion came in and savaged it on its hindquarters. You could hear bones cracking and tearing flesh. It was quite a dramatic scene, and all the guests were obviously very upset. One thing that struck us was the hatred, that intense hatred that lions have for hyena. They really dislike them immensely. You saw a number of them start grimacing. It's called phlegmon.
This has been a traumatic social interaction between the lions and the hyenas. The stresses and the strains and the sort of anxiety were probably being expressed through this sort of more typical territorial response. This is competition at its highest point.
2 cubs started playing with the hyena, mock attacking it.
This is probably a learning opportunity for them. They were very safe at this point in time. The hyena was so traumatized and wounded by the whole thing, it wouldn't be able to hurt the cubs. And therefore the lionesses were quite relaxed to allow these cubs to interact and to learn about the hyena.
The hyena did not survive. Erratic breathing was going on, but it died after that interaction. They left the hyena, they didn't feed on it or anything like that. They just savage it, kill it, and then they just move on like nothing has happened. The whole sighting was very emotional. It's not nice seeing any creature die, and obviously it happens all the time out there, and to witness it is an incredible spectacle, but I just wanted that hyena to get away. Shame.
Predatory conflict isn't always fatal. Lions sometimes tolerate jackals who scavenge from their kills. Faced with larger competition, these lightweights must be crafty or risk going hungry. But jackals are also capable hunters. While on holiday in Etosha, Matilda Faree saw a takedown she could never have imagined.
We were waiting at a waterhole and some of the buck came to drink water. I just suddenly saw this jackal grabbing the buck by the neck. Some of the other jackals also came and attacked the buck, and there the struggle began. Luckily, the camera was lying just next to me, so I just grabbed it and started to film this.
Researcher Rob Harrison White has studied jackal for the past decade and finds this behaviour unusual.
Jackal attacks on springbok are usually associated with lambs, so one wonders how these jackal got it right.
Although the springbok's 3 times heavier than the jackal, its specialised teeth grip firmly in place to suffocate its prey. But this battle has attracted unwelcome company.
Now I saw the lions coming directly to this struggle. The poor jackals ran off, and then the lions started fighting over the buck.
The jackals hang around where these lions are, and they're waiting for any opportunity to get a little bit of food. You don't want to get hurt, and you want to get food. So you've got to incorporate your cunning and your intelligence into your method of attack.
I don't like cruelty and I don't even like hunting. But to see this little buck trying to save his life, it was really hard for me to take that video. But it's part of nature, it's part of the wildlife. Killing to survive.
Jackal only weighed 9 kilograms. He had to give way.
However, if the predator trying to take the food away from the jackal, for example, is a little bit smaller and perhaps not quite as dangerous as the lions that we've been looking at, then the jackal will really give it a go and try and hold on to that food, as we see here with this baboon.
On a visit to the Kruger Park, Andries Becker and his wife had stumbled across a heated battle.
On the right-hand side, we heard a noise and saw a cloud of dust and came upon a male baboon and a jackal that looked like they were fighting over a dead Nyala lamb carcass. The baboon fed on the carcass and the jackal would charge, and the baboon would charge the jackal and chase him away.
This footage is really interesting because it looks very much like this jackal had been feeding on this carcass that the baboon is trying to take away from him. He's got his whole coat puffed up. He's all fight, this jackal. He thinks he's got a chance of retaining his food against this baboon, and he's going all out to do it. Every time the baboon tries to touch that carcass, the jackal tries to tackle him. Every time the baboon makes a move towards the jackal, he moves away. So he's got a plan, he's got a strategy.
In the end, we realized that there was a female baboon in heat just right of him. The jackal would get the upper hand every time the baboon went to the female again. At one point, the baboon went to the female, and at that moment the jackal took his chance and dragged the carcass a few meters away. The male baboon did not return. You feel like you've seen something unique that has not been seen before. This was the highlight of my visit to the game reserve.
So at the end of the day, whether we're looking at lions taking a carcass away from a jackal or the baboon trying to take a carcass away from the jackal, the persistence of the jackal won him the day. He got his food in the end.
The jackal's feistiness can be found in another of Africa's small creatures, the honey badger. Seemingly cute and cuddly, honey badgers are renowned for their ferocity and fearlessness. Most predators keep their distance. But when a group of young, inexperienced lions come across a lone badger, tourist Jill Duoc witnesses just how tenacious badgers really are.
We were staying in Sabi Sabi, my cousin and I, and on the second night the ranger took us out. We came across 5 young lions playing and climbing trees and falling off trees, and it was like a comedy act. And then eventually they climbed down backwards and all over the place. And we were really enjoying ourselves. And then the lights started going and the lions wandered off.
Their playful game was about to turn violent.
They caught a honey badger and were trying to kill it. There wasn't anything we could do about it because you've got to leave nature to take its course. And the honey badger fought and fought and fought and fought. And the noise from this honey badger was unbelievable. One was in the front and the other one was at the back, and they were tugging it.
Lions can rip a 60-kilogram impala into pieces, but with a combined weight 36 times greater than the 9-kilogram honey badger, its tough skin still withstands the lion's bites and tugs.
The smell was unbelievable.
The badger emits a putrid odor for defense, but to no avail.
It just wouldn't die. I think that possibly 2 of the lions got very bored.
The remaining young male gets the badger all to himself.
And the honey badger was scrabbling, trying to get away from it. I was amazed to realize how tough and how strong and how brave those little honey badgers are. But I think it must have been an incredible pain, and I think it fought as hard as it could, and I reckon it took about 25 minutes to die. The lions just walked off and didn't even bother to eat it. That had been killed for nothing. But I guess it's an episode that you're never going to see again, and it was an experience.
Hunting is extremely unpredictable. Horns and hooves offer a powerful defense against claws and teeth. Teamwork increases a hunter's odds, but doesn't guarantee a meal. Safari guide Mark Tennant witnessed predator-prey combat up close and personal.
I was lucky enough to be working in northern Botswana, where I had a pack on the property, and I spent 6 years observing this wild dog pack. Every year the dogs den and little puppies are born, and usually they're born with white tips to the tail. And one year, one dog was born with a black tip to the tail.
Although easy to identify, she was the litter's runt and the lowest dog in the pack. But Mark liked her instantly and affectionately named her Blacktip.
One afternoon, while being with the dogs, they got up to hunt.
Too young to participate, Blacktip tagged along to learn hunting protocol.
The alpha male and female led the pack, and they saw wildebeest in the distance. Usually when the prey see a wild dog coming, they run like hell. But on this occasion, the wildebeest decided to stand their ground.
They're being aggressive, defending themselves by being aggressive.
This becomes very dramatic because you've got this battle and it's to the death. You had wildebeest chasing dogs and vice versa. And I just didn't even know which way to point my camera. There was so much action. Then all of a sudden, the big dominant male wildebeest, he broke from the herd and he started running at full speed. He'd seen one of the wild dogs at the back of the pack, one of the weak links.
Oh my God.
14 times heavier than Blacktip, with a weight of 270 kilograms, and with horns strong enough to withstand an axe blow, the bull packs a powerful punch.
I thought she was dead. And all of a sudden, all the dogs ran up towards her and started smelling her, and they started making this unusual sound. And they just went absolutely wild, running after those wildebeest. I lost focus of the battle, and I just saw this dog lying there, my favorite dog, Blacktip. And while I was just staring at this, 3 or 4 minutes later, I noticed the twitch of an ear. Maybe Blacktip wasn't dead, her ear was moving. You could see the pain in her body, and I was just praying that the wildebeest didn't notice this and go after it and kill her. But luckily, the wild dogs managed to distract the wildebeest long enough, and she limped out of that area, lucky to have lived.
Wildebeest is a worthy adversary for wild dog. If this pack mess with even larger prey, it could be fatal. But curiosity can sometimes outweigh reason, as Jim Goodwin found out.
I was on a private game farm which borders the Kruger National Park. It was about half an hour before last light. We arrived at a boma with a small watering hole to find that there was a hippo in the water. A waterbuck came charging through the bush straight into the small water hole, chased by a pack of wild dogs.
Very often wild dog prey will run into water to escape predation, and wild dogs are very, very cautious about entering water after prey, largely because there could be crocodiles and other dangers that would pose a risk to them.
The hippo all of a sudden decided he wasn't happy with what was going on, got out the water and started attacking the dogs.
Wild dogs only weigh about 25 kilograms, and so here we have several tons of flesh and muscle and gnashing teeth. So to see them interacting with a large animal like a hippo is very unusual.
We weren't quite sure where this thing was going because first we thought the hippo was just going to leave.
Fiercely territorial, with the ability to outrun a human, hippos kill more people in Africa than any other mammal, so the pack must be wary. Their powerful jaws could slice a dog in half.
This pack was circling the hippo and very curious, and it was probably something that he hadn't experienced very often before and was getting him a little bit agitated about. When you see a wild dog pack operating as a unit and encircling an animal, it's very easy to interpret that behavior as being aggressive, but in this case, it clearly isn't. The dog's ears are up and their bodies are upright and they're being quite playful, which is a very different stance from the normal stalking aggressive behavior where their ears would be flat and their bodies would be lower to the ground.
The whole thing came to sort of an end as it was getting dark because the dogs were unhappy about the light fading.
I think the wild dogs realised that they might as well not expend any more energy there, and that's probably why they left.
My family and friends who witnessed this sighting were very excited. We realised that it was something very, very special and unique and something that you're not likely to come across every day.
In the case of the wild dogs, they weren't successful in bringing down that waterbuck. But even when a predator is successful in making a kill, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be able to keep the kill and to eat in peace.
Sometimes unforeseen factors arise. Amanda van Reineveld came across a remarkable sight when an impala, lion pride, and herd of buffalo arrived at a waterhole to drink.
When they saw him, the two females obviously decided he made a good dinner. So one of them moved slowly but very determinedly up the hill and sort of round behind him. When the buck saw her, he immediately took off and went slap into the one who was waiting, lying down. It was just incredible to watch. These buffalo were watching, and for some reason, they took exception to what was going on. When the buffalo started to come towards the lions, we were thrilled. We thought if they really are going to come in and try to protect that buck and try to chase the lions away, it's going to be great to see, because we could see the buck wasn't dead yet.
There is a well-established rivalry between these two African heavyweights. Lions are their biggest enemy, responsible for 90% of buffalo deaths. But many lions die at the horns of these opponents.
What we're witnessing here is a herd of buffalo basically telling these lions, we know where you are, we can see you, and don't even think about trying to come for us.
When the buffalo charged in, they all scattered, but not very far, and then came back, and they were determined to eat. And so the buffalo just repeatedly harassed them. So we were sort of cheering for the buffaloes.
This is a fairly small lion pride. There's only 2 adult females and some young cubs. And so these 7 buffalo carry a lot more mass than this pride of lion. And when it came to sheer strength, they definitely had the upper hand.
So that's nearly 1 ton charging down a lioness of 130 kilograms. An SUV pitted against a light motorbike.
The buffalo was trying to make sure that the lions didn't get too comfortable.
One particularly, an old bull, came forward and he pushed at them. And the lionesses were very angry, but as soon as he stopped, they went forward again. And this went on a couple of times. I thought, yeah, they're not so much the king of the jungle as they think. The lions were really cross, but they weren't brave enough to try and chase this bunch of buffaloes. We watched for a long time, but eventually the buffalo tired of it and they ambled off and left the lions to eat in peace.
So with both the wild dogs and the hippo and the lions and the buffalo, the predator found themselves in a compromised situation. And it's interesting because in both these cases, it was the herbivores that had the upper hand.
What happens on Africa's plains can also happen under African waters. The ocean's predators can be just as deadly. When humans enter their domain, we must be able to read the signs of imminent danger. Cameraman Peter Lamberti
Did you get the camera ready?
has filmed sharks on numerous occasions and knows how to read their body language. But one afternoon, while filming in Mozambique, he was in for a surprise.
We had been really battling to find sharks. So I spoke to a friend of mine and he told me that there was a place where they spearfished, where they always got harassed by sharks. So I went out to sea. Shortly after the spear fishermen had speared a fish or 2, the sharks started to come in. But they would always be quite nervous of us. And then after a while, 3 silver-tip sharks came in. But there was one silver-tip shark that was particularly curious of us. It came in quite nice and close. I noticed that while filming it, I would be looking over my camera and he would kind of keep his distance, always watching me. But whenever I put my eye to the viewfinder, he would turn and come in at me. I'd take my head away from the camera and he would go away.
Stunned by the shark's behavior, Peter wondered if this was a mere coincidence.
I tried it a few more times. The minute I lost eye contact, it would come straight for the camera. I'd lift my head away and it would turn away again. On the one occasion, I kept my eye to the viewfinder and the shark actually came up and hit my lens. It came in to bump it with its nose. What sharks often do is they will feel their prey with their nose. Certainly showed more attitude than any other shark I've ever filmed. I find that they're quite amazing because it just shows you how these animals are reading our body language.
The right response around sharks is crucial. The stakes are even higher when diving with tiger sharks. Aggressive and unpredictable, their blade-like teeth are powerful enough to slice through a turtle shell. What started out as a typical morning at sea for ocean safari operator Rainer Schimpf and his clients soon turned into an exceptionally close encounter.
We were busy diving with sharks off Port St. John's, South Africa. Most of the people would like to take pictures and film and observe the sharks in their natural environment. We dived down and then realized that there really was a lot of activity in the water. That activity basically increased by the minute and more sharks basically came in. And as we descended to about 10-15 meters, after a while we realized that the first tiger sharks were coming in. They were really calm and easygoing, and those sharks cruised around us for quite a while and investigated us while we were basically taking pictures and filming those sharks. The sharks came really close, and if you don't react fast, The sharks will just come close and basically take his turn to the right or left and swim on. Very calm and easy. And that's one of the main rules one has to keep in mind, that you never do any fast movement while you swim and dive with sharks. We were there for about 20 minutes and suddenly out of the corner of my eye I saw fast movement, and I swung the camera to my left and I realized that a tiger shark was coming close towards a diver. He got a little bit panicked and tried to swim away from the shark and swam upwards. And that tiger shark saw that as an invitation and followed that diver up. What will happen if he keeps on swimming away and the shark is trying to grab him now? Because obviously a shark doesn't have hands to hold on. If they want to investigate something, they use their teeth and their mouth. The faster he swam upwards, the faster the shark was following him. This was obviously a mistake. And the shark now made a very awkward movement upwards, following the diver and following right close and intense. Only when the diver realized that the shark's following him because he's swimming so fast and stopped, then the shark moved away and swam off. But he was all right, so that's the main thing. Lesson learned. Don't swim away from a shark.
In the face of danger, the correct reaction is vital, especially for solitary predators. To catch prey alone can be tricky, but the stealthy leopard has mastered this art. Impala kills are common and normally hoisted out of a competitor's reach. But as safari guide Jordan Green found out, leopards don't always operate by the book.
We got a call in from one of the rangers that one of the local dominant leopard had taken out a warthog. We got there about 20 minutes later, only to find that the leopard had taken out a warthog which was probably its size, if not bigger than the leopard. And man had gone for the route of trying to gnaw through the chest cavity.
Leopards generally would go for the throat to kill an animal, but in this instance, the throat of this warthog was really just too big and too thick and strong for it to get through. So it was using any means possible to kill the animal, which ended up being the chest.
It wasn't a pleasant scene because there was a lot of blood coming out through the chest and the warthog was squealing. And you could almost feel its pain every time the leopard went in for another go.
Look at the size of that warthog.
Leopards often take warthog piglets simply because of the risks involved of taking such a big animal. And that's what makes this trip so unique.
The guests were obviously quite upset by the situation. A lot of them decided to leave the scene rather go back to camp. We decided to stay. At that point, I heard my tracker give a soft whistle. And I looked to the right, I saw two lionesses approaching the scene quite cautiously. When they became in range, the leopard obviously saw them, and you could almost see him weighing up his options what to do. He'd put in so much time and effort and energy into taking down the warthog. He didn't want to release it that quickly, but two lionesses approaching, he was always going to lose that battle. The warthog amazingly stumbled to his feet and started stumbling off in the direction of the lions. The lions went in and the warthog gave a sort of a final squeal. In the end, I suppose, it was a bit of a mercy killing. It would have taken a long time for that leopard to finally end the warthog. So it was a very impressive feat for the leopard to take down a warthog of that size without sustaining an injury himself. Choosing the better option in the end, I suppose, so he got to escape with his life and he'll be able to hunt again the next day.
One leopard's good judgment is not always that of another's, as John O'Kelmanson soon discovered.
This was our last game drive of the holiday, and we're heading out to say goodbye to the bush, so to speak. We knew of 4 lionesses on a kill in a riverbed close by. When we got there, our ranger suddenly said, there's a leopard. And, you know, we were all focused on the lions, and we looked south, and there, lying on the sand, was a big male leopard. He showed no interest whatsoever until the last lioness finished feeding.
He's a cheeky man. Here's the rod.
You could see that he was determined not to leave that kill.
This male leopard immediately rolled onto his back, protecting his vulnerable spine, and obviously having his claws, which is his main defense mechanism, right up in the lioness's face.
She's very reluctant to attack him. She only started attacking him once the reinforcements arrived.
A big male leopard will weigh between 60 and 80 kilograms, whereas a lioness could be anything from 120 to 150 kilograms, so almost double the size for a lioness. One leopard against 4 lionesses, it shouldn't stand any chance.
The pride lioness was the oldest lioness. then tried to go in for the kill and get him around the throat. And at that stage, the leopard latched onto her face and he rips open her jowl and you can see the blood dripping from her mouth.
I've never seen a leopard stand up to a pride of lions like this, and especially not for such a long period of time.
All things quietened down. The lionesses lay by the kill with the leopard lying in amongst them. All parties were reluctant to move. At one stage, he flinched, and again the lionesses set on him.
You would have imagined when those lionesses went in, they were just going to go for the kill, but you can very clearly see that these lionesses were kind of doing it with caution.
Everyone on the vehicle at this stage is now crying, seeing this amazing animal being attacked. All the noise had caused some interest from a hyena, and it was this moment that the leopard had been waiting for. He jumped up and bolted down the sandbar. But he bounded into the bushes and escaped.
Leopards just never cease to amaze me. For these two specific animals to be so tenacious, one to take on a warthog that's much larger than itself and still survive quite a dangerous situation, another one taking on 4 lionesses and again coming off scot-free is quite amazing.
What it taught me about life is that determination and willpower can get you through any situation.
The unpredictable nature of life in the animal kingdom keeps our cameras ready to roll and teaches us that nature doesn't always play by the rules. What are the breathtaking moments of rare and unusual animal behavior lie in store? Just waiting to get caught in the act.